Welcome to Homocide, the podcast. Hi, I'm Kevin.
And hi, I'm Brandon.
And welcome to Homocide, the podcast.
Welcome to the very delayed Homocide, the podcast.
We have returned.
We are safe. We are sound. No, we were not murdered. We are still alive.
Funny enough, we have been out of commission for a hot second.
Yes, we were MIA.
Yeah, we were MIA. So basically, we got home. Okay, obviously, you know that we're in a... Well, let me start over. If you are listening to this podcast, maybe fast forward like a few minutes because really this won't pertain to you, I guess, as much unless you watch us on YouTube. But we're in a different location recording today.
It was very lengthy for no reason.
It was really Thank you. Anyway, we are recording from our office actually in Tampa. So if you follow us and know us, you know that we live in both New York City and in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, we got a lot of dreams, y'all.
Yeah, lots of dreams. But anyway, we were home for the holidays, and really we go back and forth between New York and Tampa anyway. But we've recorded mostly in New York City with our producer, Anna. Well, anyway, Anna was off on a holiday, and we came to Tampa to be here for the holidays. Also, we own our house here, and it's a cool fucking city if you haven't been here. Anyway,
but then we got here and we decided that our mental health mattered a little bit.
Yeah.
And we were like, you know what? I need a break.
We
Needed
just
everything.
a moment. Yeah. So
we had a lovely week between Christmas and New Year's that we
did.
didn't do much.
No, we got really high.
Yes.
A lot.
Ate quite a bit.
Ate a lot of food. And I've gained quite a bit of weight, actually. But anyway,
But it was fun and it was worth it. And I don't know about you, but I needed it.
I did need it too. So anyway, sorry that we didn't have an episode on the 26th of December nor
Or the
on the 2nd, which also meant that our giveaway we need to extend. So yeah, we're going to extend that and we'll share more information on that when we think about it because it just popped into my head. God, we're so rude.
We're so not prepared. This is how we live our life, guys. Whatever. You're welcome.
Anyway.
Anybody who knows this is probably just laughing at us.
Agreed. Okay, but Brandon.
Yes.
We're recording on Saturday, January 6th. This episode comes out this Tuesday.
Yes.
And I think it's worth talking to people about the experience that we had at the primary care doctor that we were establishing this week.
Well, if they've seen our TikTok, they might already have seen that.
Oh, I did share it on there. Okay, well, here's the story. Basically, Brandon and I went to go to, we don't go to the doctor very often, and we're getting older because we're almost
trying
40.
to do better about it.
Yeah, and so we went to the doctor, and in there, they're asking all these questions. It's pretty great. Although at one point, it was like, these are some pretty intense questions. Are you a bottom or a top? And I'm like, oh my God.
Let's start off with saying we didn't just go to a normal primary care physician. We went to a all-inclusive queer physician group.
If you're in the Tampa Bay area, it's called Metro Health. They're fantastic, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, we went to the one that's in Seminole Heights here near our neighborhood because we live in the...
Yeah.
Anyway.
So they ask a lot of questions about that would pertain to the queer
but
lifestyle.
I've never answered those questions.
Like I never had a nurse ask me if I was a top, bottom, reverse.
I haven't either. And I was like, and like, have you been sexually active? Yes. Have you given oral? Oh my God. Yes. This is awkward. Anyway, so we're getting everything done, blood tests, all this kind of stuff. And I'm sitting in the chair and she like pokes me in both arms.
She couldn't find
my fucking vein.
After you left to go to the bathroom, she was like, I've never had that happen before.
Oh, whatever. So that all happens. And then she's talking about, okay, like here's the cup that you need to pee in, which by the way was like this weird. It was
like
not
a coffee
normal,
cup.
like I feel like I've had to like.
It was a paper cup with a plastic top. It looked like you were going to a bodega and you were getting like one of those blue coffee cups.
Or like if you, on the Upper West Side, there's this delicious restaurant called Malecon, and you can get like a cafe con leche there. And it was like that cup with like the plastic top. It was fucking weird. So she gives that to me, and then she's like, and then you'll also have to do this rectal swab, which you can do on your own. And I went, I'm sorry? What?
I literally heard her say rectal or anal. She said one of the
Anal,
two. And I remember just like she was in front of me and I just like whipped my head up and was like, what?
And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And so she was like, it's for you gotta swab. And I was like, look, I have to stick that in my ass and swab. And she was like, yes. And I'm like, what? And so okay, so I went to the bathroom.
And you were in there a very long time.
Because I got nervous. And then I went to go like do the pee right in the cup. So I was like, I'll start there. So I like, first up, I took my pants all the way down. So I was like peeing with my pants all the way down.
Like you were a child at a
do.
urinal again.
It was really weird. But anyway, I'm going to do that. And I go, whip your dick out. You're like, whatever. And then the cup falls into the toilet. I hadn't peed in it yet. And I was like,
so
fuck.
gross.
So I had to like,
hopefully
scoop it
somebody
out.
else had flushed before then.
I mean, it didn't look like anything, but ew.
Right, it's gross.
Still. So I had to like rinse out the cup and all that kind of
Was
stuff.
there anything
I, like, dried
inside the
it.
cup?
No, I hadn't peed in it yet.
No, but like, did toilet water get in the cup?
100%.
Like,
So I
would there be
rinsed it.
contamination with that?
Probably. I don't know. I rinsed it, whatever. I dried it all with the brown gross paper towels that were and then peed in that. And then here's the thing. I was like, okay, let me try to swab my own asshole. Okay.
It was such an uncomfortable
It
experience.
was awful. So I'm trying to swab. Literally, I was just taking that fucking like basically COVID. It was like
Yeah, it was a COVID test for your booty
for
hole.
your booty hole, and it was like the same thing too. So
It
I'm
was.
like
You're taking a dry
swabbing.
cotton swab,
It was awful. but
putting
I'm-
it in, and she showed me, and she was
She
like,
showed you. She did not show me.
no, she's like, you want to take it, and then you want to scrub the lining inside.
Ew,
And I was like,
ew.
I don't want to do that.
Okay, listen, I was like sticking it all sorts of places and I couldn't get in my hole. So I had to take my phone out, put the camera on, put it down, bend down to look at my own asshole, stick this shit in. I got it in. I just went boop, boop. There was no swabbing. And I'm telling you, I was like, ew.
It was disgusting.
It's fucking awful.
It was disgusting.
Anyway, so
So-
if you've had to swab
but-
your own asshole, please
Yeah.
leave a review with how
Right.
with a 5-star review.
And I
with
guarantee
your
you it'll be
swabbing
mostly
story.
all gay men.
100%. Well,
Because it was technically
when-
I'm pretty sure that was for the
Like an
STD
STD
screening.
test?
And we're monogamous.
Yeah,
We
like,
don't ever,
do
we don't
anything.
typically test for STDs because we don't do anything. And
So
they
it's
were
been
like,
like
do you want
7
us to do a
years.
STD panel? We said, sure, why not? We haven't done it in forever. So let's do it. So I'm pretty sure that was just part of the STD screening,
Yeah.
which I was not aware of. I feel like the last time we did an STD screening, it was just blood. I don't remember
No.
anything.
'Cause some
I don't
people
remember
talk
having to
about-
do anything to myself.
Well, and some people talk about how they like swab inside of your
urethra.
pee hole
Ooh.
and all that kind of stuff. And that I've never had that.
No, but
So
I feel
I
like
don't-
that's probably if you have something and they have to like if you're pussing something out, you just
Like if you
swab
have
it.
gonorrhea and you're like,
Oh.
and then it's like all that
Oh,
mucus
that's so gross.
shooting out of your dingling.
Anyways,
Yeah. Anyway, I have never had gonorrhea. Thank God. But I've had several friends that were like, Kevin, I have gonorrhea. And I'm like, ew, tell me everything.
right? Tell me, don't show me. Tell me.
Like that, like, remember Bobby?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not my brother-in-law, but
Oh my God, no, that'd
somebody
be
that
awkward.
I used to work with. Yeah. And he just told me everything. And I was like, it's in your mouth. It was awful.
No.
Yeah, but
you.
when we
Use
posted
protection,
it on,
friends.
Yes, when we posted it on social media, a whole bunch. I think most of the gay friends. That
Oh,
we have
all
were
of the gay men that we know.
I've had to do that, and I'm like,
We're
what?
starting to write. Yes, I have.
Yeah. Anyway, so swabbing assholes. That is.
And then other
that's how
people
we
are
started
like,
our
you
new
might
year."
have malpractice.
I know. I think that's right. Were there hidden cameras? I'm like, I mean, there could
Ew.
be. Whatever. I mean, I would watch that because it was really funny.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Like
Yeah.
that whole situation for me was very.
It was hilarious just because it caught us off guard. And when something like,
I mean, and I'm awkward, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you want me to stick that in my asshole? And you could tell that she was like, like,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
well, and then you walked away, but there was that other guy who walked up to the doorway and said something like, well, that's a common occurrence here.
Oh my god. I mean, fine.
And I even said on the TikTok, I'm like, it's one thing to hand a grown person your urine in a cup, but having to hand over a tube that has a swabbed
Of your anal
juice inside of it, it was so uncomfortable.
And we had an unfortunate morning with some poodadids. Like
we had
were
Taco Bell the night before.
kinda
We
had
did
some
not think
messed up
about
stomachs.
this.
So I'm like, here's my,
You're welcome. I'm
poop-stained
sorry. I'm leaving.
swab.
Please don't
You're
look me in the eye.
I know. Awful.
Oh man.
Anyway, so yeah, we started the new year with an anal swab. Anal swabbing our
How was your New Year's?
Swabbing our own anus. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we violated ourselves
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
God, that was.
with a dry swab.
And I've never clearly I'm gay. I've stuck several things up my ass, but I definitely don't. I could not get this. It was awful.
It's getting hot in here.
We should plug in that whole video.
Haven't you missed listening to Homocide, the podcast with your friends, Kevin and Brandon?
Maybe not. Anyway,
We
yeah,
may gain followers, we may lose followers, but there you go.
story of our life. But anyway, Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy late Christmas and
Yes.
holiday and however you celebrate. We are non-religious people, so it's all about Christmas trees and Santa Clauses and chocolates and presents and Everything that's not related to Jesus Christ.
Yes. Good for those who do.
He's the reason for the season. Right. Keep Jesus Christ and Christmas.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's
anyway,
beautiful.
If you believe in all that, I great. Okay, so Brandon, Homocide is back. And
who
here we
is
are.
ready for episode 10?
I am. But Brandon, oh my
Yes.
God. Okay. This week we have episode 10 coming out on Tuesday, but then on Thursday,
Oh, yes.
we have our next Homotown murder.
No, and it's been a bit for that too.
Yes, but we're also doing something kind of fun.
Yeah, we're switching it up.
year. Yeah.
We decided after the last one that we did with Brienne that we're going to do it a little bit different. So preemptively, I want to say, Brienne, I know you're listening. So if you want to send in another Homotown murder, we will have you back on. We'll have your story back on.
I like how he preemptively says.
I know, I
it
just
without
fucked that up.
explaining
You're
what we're
welcome.
doing.
Anyways, go ahead.
Okay.
I was trying to do it in a different way, and then I
was
just,
precious.
I ruined it.
Brienne,
Keep going.
We'll jump back to that. But anyway, our Homotown murders. First off, if you have a Homotown murder, which is your hometown murder, but we're Homocide, so Homotown murder.
Right. We're Penny, I guess.
Yes, I guess. Send in your Homotown murder to us at murder@homocidepodcast.com. Again, murder@homocidepodcast, HOMO. Send that in to us. And then what we're going to do in this new year is we want you to tell your Homotown murder with us. And so you basically will do all the work, the research, whatever, come to the table and join us recording on the podcast, telling the story. We will be in there just gagging.
Yeah,
and
you tell
gooping
us and we react.
Reacting because,
Right?
these are not.
So instead of us telling you the story, you tell us.
Correct.
So again, Brienne,
Yeah.
if you send another story, we'll have you on the podcast this time.
Yes.
So
this week is featuring my really good friend, Maddie.
yes.
And I'm super excited for you to join her because, man, her
To join her?
Wait.
For her to join us, for you to hear her.
Yes. For you to join us, listening or watching, when Maddie joins us this week. So anyway, really excited. Excited for you and us and everyone in between. Anyway, and then episode 11 comes out the next week. So really excited to be back on track. We'll let you know more about the giveaway that we're doing. So just remember, please subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on wherever you listen to your podcast, but specifically Apple
Podcast
and Spotify and all of them. Anyway,
specifically those two, but then all of them. That makes sense.
Sure. And then also please rate and review. 5 stars. That always helps us grow. So anyway, God, that was a lot. You're welcome.
That was a lot.
If you don't like listening to intros, just maybe fast forward by 15 or 20 minutes and you'll be there. So Brandon, today's episode 10 is titled
Tell us everything.
Hey Kid, Stay Away. Hey Kid, Stay Away.
Hey kid.
Let me just.
What do you mean by hey kid? Just kidding.
So today's episode is all about killer children.
Terrifying.
Which, by the way, is fucking scary.
It is terrifying.
It's like
imagine a toddler with a knife chasing you. That's terrifying.
that reminds me of like Chucky the film,
right?
Even though he was not a child,
basically, though.
But still,
I feel like there's nothing more terrifying than a child who is capable of killing, whether they understand what they're doing or they're not. Like, it's terrifying. You've barely experienced life.
Okay, jumping back to Chucky. Wait, no, was it Chucky? No, oh my God, I was thinking about the Leprechaun. Have you seen the movie Leprechaun?
Yeah, but I don't remember. It was so long ago.
Oh my God, I watched all of them.
You talk about it every Halloween, but we never watch it.
Mostly I talk about Leprechaun in the Hood because it was really fucking funny. Anyway, but Leprechaun, yeah. Why did I bring that one? Oh my God, did you ever see the movie Willow?
Yeah, I think so with you.
They came back, I don't know, out with I don't know.
You're asking me to remember way too many references right now.
I know.
Chucky, Leprechaun, Willow.
I'm pretty
what
sure
else?
that the same actor played the Leprechaun as played Willow, who was also in Harry Potter.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Where are we going with this? We're talking about killer children.
Anyway, let's jump back to killer children.
So why did you say any of that?
I don't know.
What was the point?
I don't know. You're welcome for all of it. We'll talk about it later tonight after we've smoked a bit. All right.
Right. And be like, okay, why did you even bring that up?
I don't know. You're welcome for it, though. Anyway, so, Hey Kid, Stay Away. Episode 10, Killer Children. Yeah. Brandon, are you ready?
Yes, it's my turn to go first. We definitely had to double check the YouTube channel to see who spoke first last time, but it was you, so it's me.
We did.
All right, you ready?
Yeah. Yes, girl.
Let's do it.
Tell us.
So I don't have a title for mine,
Oh,
but I just looked up one of the news article headlines, which
Okay.
is kind of interesting. So I'm going to use that as my headline. And it is When the Face of Evil is 13, A Small Town's Pain is the title of the article.
it made no sense.
Why? You'll read it.
Read it
I'll
again?
tell you the story. And
No, I
it'll
know,
make
but
sense.
read it again.
When the face of evil is 13, a small town's pain.
That makes no sense.
It's colon. It's like two separate pieces put together.
Oh,
Just this is why I don't do this shit.
that would have been something to.
I should have just said I don't have a title. Let me go into it. So I don't have a title. Let me just dive right
What
in.
year was this, and who was the author? Because that was bad choices.
I'm sorry. It might make sense after I read it.
All right, well, let's dive in.
All right. So it was a normal day on August 2nd, 1993, in Savona, New York. Derrick Joseph Robie, a bright and lively 4-year-old boy, was waiting to leave the house to go to the park where he was on a recreational baseball team. Being that they were only a block away from the park, it was a common occurrence for Derrick to walk on his own as his mother, Doreen Robie, watched from the house. Distracted by Derrick's younger brother, Dalton, he was a bit fidgety, and Doreen had her hands full taking care of him that day. Trying to help, Derrick told Doreen, his mother, that he would be all right and that he could make it all by himself, that it would be no problem. Knowing that it was only a short distance, it was only a block away, it was on a dead-end street with no cross streets, and that he knew his way around since they go there so often, Doreen decided that he was capable of going on his own for the very first time. With his with his packed lunch in hand, a kiss and a mutual exchange of "I love you," Derrick went hopping off the sidewalk, escorted by Doreen to the media. A short time later, around 11 a.m., storm clouds rolled in, and it started to downpour. And Doreen started to get get this weird feeling like something wasn't right. So, with the feeling of uneasiness, I don't know what I just said. Doreen went over to the park to get Derrick. When she got there and talked to the people that were there, she was told that Derrick never arrived that morning.
Ooh.
Yeah, just one little block away. So
1 block.
yes, he was going one block.
Jeez.
He was walking one block.
See?
She usually watches him.
Parents.
Yeah, it was an easy mistake, I think.
Great. I mean, 1 block is.
It was a block where it's a dead end road. It's where they live. They didn't think anything would happen. Why would you, right?
Yeah.
So from there, panic set in. Police were called, and understanding the severity of a 4-year-old who was only going a block that went missing, the police and community started searching for him. 5 hours later, the body of Derrick was found in a small patch of woods right next to the park. So right in between the park and where he lived.
Little Derrick.
I know. But what happened? Immediately, the local community started to panic. Savona butts right up to the Interstate 86. So thinking it could be someone from out of town who murdered Derrick, the town ultimately came to a halt. Parents were scared to let their children out of the house, and the police's search for the killer proceeded. And then at this point, the community of Savona had no idea what was about to unfold.
Yeah.
So here enters Eric Smith, a 13-year-old boy who lived on the other side of town, who also attended the same baseball program. From images of Eric, he seemed like a typical young 13-year-old boy. His family at one point described him as fun-loving young boy who liked to clown around and liked attention. So adorned with bright red hair, this one's interesting, low-set ears. And if you look at his photo, we'll put it on on our social media. His ears were kind of low.
Do
Set,
your ears hang low?
He had really thick glasses and freckles, which there's some photos where he kind of looked like an adorable little kid, but then you'd start to hear about him and you're like, oh. So he was, the sad part is that he was often bullied in school and was commonly seen alone because of his hair, his ears, his glasses. He just didn't really fit in with people.
God, there's a lot of parallels in our stories today.
Oh, maybe. Oh my God, imagine if it was the same one.
No, it's not. It's not.
Riding his bike. So he would commonly be seen alone, riding his bike all over town with no one with him, and many considered him a loner. A few days after the murder, people started to notice that Eric was starting to act a little differently. A family friend named Marlene Heskel even came out to say that Eric came to her and a neighbor and asked her what would happen if it turned out to be a kid. like who murdered him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, which seems like an odd question, paired with the additional questions about DNA evidence and some other stuff.
What year was this?
1993.
Okay, all right.
It's even quoted that Eric's grandfather knew that he was hiding something. He said it was like on 48 Hour episode, in no way did we feel that he had done it. So he felt that he knew something. Maybe somebody had threatened him. That's why he wouldn't tell. So knowing that he was at the park that day as well, Marlene's suspicions were kind of going a little crazy. So thinking that he may actually know something, he called Eric's mother, Tammy Smith, and Tammy decided to take Eric to the police to meet with the investigators to maybe get him to talk about whatever happened. So when Eric started talking to the investigators, they were surprised with how interested in the murder he was. He talked about it as if he really enjoyed talking about it, and then he was acting pretty upbeat and happy, which is just kind of creepy because children are fucking creepy. Even children who don't murder are creepy sometimes.
Yeah.
Investigator John Hish was also quoted as saying, he's looking right at me. He's very upbeat, very happy. He likes the fact that he's being talked to.
Ew,
which is also creepy, but also thinking like this loner kid who has really no friends. Sure. He's excited to talk to somebody, which it's talking about murder, which is also creepy. It's just weird. So at first, Eric said that he hadn't seen Derrick that day, but abruptly he changed his story. He told them that he was riding his bike right across from the open field, and he saw him wearing a white t-shirt and carrying a lunch bag. Investigators are a bit surprised by the answer because that happened to be the same exact spot where his body was found. So he's saying he saw Derrick in the field where the body was found on the other side of the park with his bike.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So after a bit more questioning, Eric was starting to get visibly upset. Even once he curled his hands in fists by his face and asked if they thought he killed Derrick. So if you're watching, from what I saw, it was the investigator. He had his hands up like this and he was shaking his fist by his face, and he got mad and he said, out of anger, said, "Do you think that I killed him?" Which is creepy.
And they're
again,
like,
children are creepy.
Yes, they do.
Right now, maybe, possibly. So the next day, on August 6th, the police took Eric to the location where he saw Derrick last. With a video camera in hand, they had Eric reenact his day, which I watched, and it's kind of creepy because he's very calm. So as calm as ever in this video, you can see Eric doing as they ask, riding his bike up and down the street as if nothing happened. He doesn't look panicked. He doesn't look anything. He's just like calmly, collectedly showing them. So, however, it was very clear to investigators that something wasn't right, that the information Eric gave them the day before didn't match what they saw, that it was not possible for Eric to actually see Derrick where he said he would from the street. But from here, the police couldn't really do anything as they didn't have enough evidence to prove anything. So they just let him off and go because they were like, we don't know anything. So then comes August 8th. So again, this all started August 2nd. So a few days later on August 8th. I'm not sure why. And I couldn't really see anywhere why, like what prompted any of this, but Eric was at home with his family and he started to break down. So for some reason or not, he broke down and his grandfather was quoted to say that while they were at the house, Eric said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. I killed that little boy." Right? They immediately started questioning him, wanting to know what he's talking about, what he did, how he did it, why they did it. But eventually they brought him to the police station.
I mean, yeah.
Which kudos to the parents, I would say, because there's a lot of parents that I feel like would not do that. They would try to hide it and try to be like, no, my kid wouldn't do this. Yeah. But to me, I think they did the right thing to bring their child to the police station. I absolutely
would have done the same thing.
Yeah. So on August 9th, local authorities announced that Eric Smith was arrested for the murder of Derrick Robie.
Eric Smith.
So what happened, right?
Yeah.
So and I almost put this piece in the beginning, but I'm like, let me move it down. It's not too crazy. It's a little bit hard, but it's not too hard. So from what I saw in my research, many sources believed he killed Derrick because of all of the bullying he encountered in his life. It made him angry and he found someone to take it out on. He was also quoted in saying, I don't know. I just saw this blonde kid, and I wanted to hurt him,
My Lord.
which is terrifying. Again, children are terrifying. So, evidence in Eric's testimony in the murder helped paint the picture of what happened.
Yeah.
So first, Eric saw Derrick while he was riding on his bike, and he lured him into the woods. And immediately, Eric started to strangle him. Yeah, like from what I saw, everything happened very quickly. Once Derrick was unconscious, Eric looked around to see if there was anything I would assume as a weapon, to use as a weapon. So he saw some big rocks in the ground next to him. So he dug them up. He dug up one pretty large rock, which was pretty big compared to him, and then a smaller one. And Eric took the rocks and started to bludgeon Derrick with them until he was dead.
So he had simply strangled him and he passed out.
And then he beat the shit out of him with rocks. Yeah. But it doesn't really stop there.
Oh, okay.
So grabbing Derrick's lunch bag, he grabbed the bottle of Kool-Aid he had for some reason and dumped it into all of the wounds of Derrick's body. Again, don't know why. Fucking weird. Creepy. And then the worst part to me is that he then, for some reason, took a stick and sodomized Derrick with it.
Okay.
Again, no reason. And then again, and I have in here, then for some reason, I feel like I've said that a few times, Eric took a banana out of the lunch bag and smashed it, removed both shoes, put his right shoe by his left hand and his left shoe by his right hand as if he was posing him, and then left. Okay. Yeah. All fucking weird. So on September 2nd, Eric was indicted by a grand jury on a second-degree murder charge.
Sorry, that was second?
Yeah. Okay. And he would be tried as an adult because in New York, a child can be tried as an adult for murder.
And he was, how old was he though? 13?
He was 13.
That motherfucker was a teenager.
Yeah.
So all right.
Yeah. Well, he obviously pleaded guilty. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. He pleaded not guilty to it because people do that.
Yeah.
Because they want to get away with murder.
Sure.
So then a year later, after the murder, on August of 1994, the trial began. Eric's attorney argued that he suffers from a mental disease that can be characterized as rage disorder, which was quoted from him. And the rage disorder was called intermittent explosive disorder. Yeah, his mom and stepdad got on the stand and told the jury that Eric would have tantrums and bang his head on the floors. He had speech problems, and he would come home and say how stupid he was, and that sometimes he just wanted to hurt somebody.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. They all stated that because he had this disorder, he shouldn't be held criminally responsible for the murder. The prosecution argued that he knew exactly what he was doing. They noted that rage disorder in general is rare and rarely seen in children his age. They believed that he analyzed the situation and then he decided to take action, and he knew exactly what he wanted to do. At one point before the trial, both sides did medical tests on Eric to try to prove the disorder, to prove or deny the disorder. They examined his brain function, his hormone levels, and a bunch of other things. And ultimately, there was no concrete evidence that there was anything mentally wrong with Eric. However, his attorney still believed that it was true.
Yeah.
So on August 16th, 1994, a few hours after deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The jury agreed with the prosecution and believed Eric could have controlled his action, and he was found guilty of second-degree murder at the age of 13 years old. Wow. So while in jail, Eric wrote an apology letter to Derrick's family and read it on public television, and it said, "I know my actions have caused terrible loss in the Robie family, and for that I am truly sorry. I've tried to think as much as possible about what Derrick will never experience. His 16th birthday, Christmas, anytime, owning his own house, graduating, going to college, getting married, his first child. If I could go back in time, I would switch places with Derrick and endure all of the pain I've caused him. If it meant that he would go on living, I'd switch places, but I can't." So on November 7th, Eric was sentenced to the maximum sentence of 9 years to life, which 9 years seems low, but I think that's the maximum sentence for somebody at his age.
Okay, so I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I don't understand what 9 years to life means.
Meaning he has to at least serve 9 years. And then after 9 years, he's put up for parole.
Oh,
and he
parole.
can potentially get out.
Got it.
But he could potentially stay for the rest
life.
of his life.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's basically they're saying you may or may not get back out.
Got it.
So he would serve his time in juvenile detention until he turned 21, and then he'd be transferred to an adult prison. But we're not done. So on June 11th, 2024, Eric was 22, and it was 9 years, and he was up for parole.
Wow.
So the parole board, I'm actually really proud that that's like one of the first times I haven't fucked up that much so far.
Pretty good.
Sorry, guys, you can't really laugh at it this time, but I'll probably mess up a bunch of times. So, the parole board noted that he showed little remorse for what he did, and they denied his release. Then 2 years later, he tried again, and he was denied. Then 2 years later, after that, he tried again, and he was denied. Overall, Eric was denied parole 10 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do they come up for parole every year?
I think for him
Assuming?
for him, a lot of it was every 2 years.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's determined or if there's a set. That's probably something we should look at. But he went for every 2 years. So then on October 5th, 2021, we're getting close.
And he's not much older than we are.
No, he's not.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So on October 5th, 2021, Eric had his 11th parole board hearing, and this time was a little bit different. After talking about his remorse, his desire to obtain a college degree, and how he recently got engaged to a woman who was studying to be a lawyer and wrote about the juvenile justice system and more, things shifted a bit. And he talked about like wanting to follow the American dream, which I thought was pretty interesting. Yeah. So on October 7th, his parole was granted, as the board believed that they'd seen him change over the years and that he does not seem to be a threat to society anymore. So after being locked up for 28 years, Eric was released from prison at the age of 42 on February 1st, 2022.
Wow.
And so when that happened, the community got a little bit worried.
Yeah.
So I don't have this in my notes, but I do remember this note. He was supposed to be paroled in November the year prior. However, the community was worried that he would be paroled and sent back to his parents' house to live with his mother. So his parole got delayed by a couple months until they found the appropriate place for him to go, because they didn't want him to go to the same community.
Got it.
So he is now currently living just 300 miles away from Savona in the borough of Queens in New York City. So we got to be careful next time we go home. Yes.
Eric.
Yeah. So he's 43 now,
Wow.
going to be 44. And so interesting facts I have in here. Because of what Eric did to Derrick, it was often asked if Eric was sexually abused to do something like that, the sodomy piece. So it was always denied. However, Eric's older sister came out to say that she was sexually abused by her stepfather.
I mean,
so people do think that there was something, but it's not.
Sure.
It's not credible.
But sometimes I'm also like, all right, when people are like, well, they were sexually abused, so they're going to sexually abuse other people too, which is actually not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another interesting fact that since the killing, he has come out to say that, and this is quoted, "My anger wasn't directed at Derrick at all. It was directed at all the other guys that used to pick on me. And when I was torturing and killing Derrick, that was what I saw in my head." Which is shitty.
Yeah.
Which
I could... I mean, who knows what his truth is, but hearing that, I'm like...
yeah. And then Doreen and Derrick Robie say that they are relieved that they no longer have to be re-traumatized every 2 years for parole hearings.
Yeah.
Because now that's over. They don't have to worry about that anymore. And then Doreen is also quoted saying, "I don't let him take space in my head. I do not focus on where he is, what he's doing, because I don't care, as long as he's not near friends and family."
Yeah.
Which I feel like is understandable.
Yeah.
I feel like this one's like one that's shitty, didn't have to happen, but like he was so young, he couldn't understand any of it, but he could.
Yeah.
And it's just...
It's difficult. It's difficult because it's difficult. I don't know what motivates people to kill in general, but to take the time like he did to pose and to further like mutilate.
Yeah, and the investigators said it sounded like he enjoyed it. Like when they were speaking, that he enjoyed it, and he obviously stayed there for a bit. And like did
and,
stuff
like,
and whatever.
relished in it.
Yeah. And so it's like you
weirdo.
understand that you're doing it.
Yeah.
And now he lives in Queens.
Oh, Eric, I do
So
hope
people of
that
New
you
York.
are reformed.
Yeah. Live, laugh, love.
Oh, my Lord.
Awesome.
Wow.
So
All right. Well,
not a too crazy one, but a good one
that was
nonetheless.
a good one. Yeah. All right. Well,
You be ready for yours?
yeah, I am. Shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. Episode 10 for me. I have named my episode again
You always have the best
this
names.
week. And my episode is titled Fuck This Milky Marble Eyeball Shitbag Child.
Milky marble eyeball?
Yep.
Okay.
Fuck this Milky Marble Eyeball Shitbag Child.
Okay.
Okay.
It's like every week they get longer and longer.
Oh, they do. All right. So it was the chilly morning of April 23rd, 1874, when two boys, Jesse.
18. This is old.
It is an old one. When two boys, Jesse, who was 14, and Horace, who was 4, were seen walking toward the nearby bay after just visiting a local bakery.
Horace,
which, by the
awful
way,
name.
it isn't, but it's the name of a character in Hello Dolly.
Yeah, which is also old.
Put on your Sunday clothes. There's not so. Anyway, I was in Hello Dolly when I was in high school.
So these are similar ages to 14 and 4.
Yeah. Okay, so Horace, whose family had just moved to Dorchester Street, had dark brown eyes, bow-shaped lips, and shiny blonde hair, and was described as almost angelic in appearance. His mother loved dressing him up in fine clothes, so he wore a black velvet hat with a golden tassel, a black and white jacket, and a red and white checkered shirt. So Horace absolutely loved sweets. Who doesn't as a child? And with a couple of pennies from his mother, ventured out into the street to visit the local bakery. And this all takes place in Boston.
I was going to say, where is this?
Yeah, I addressed it in a little bit, but might as well. On his way to the bakery, on his way to the bakery, he met Jesse, the 14-year-old, who joined him on his trip to the bakery. So Horace at the bakery bought a small cake and shared it with Jesse. What a nice child.
So Horace, that's 4, is at the bakery buying stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's
18, whatever. But
yeah.
There's
like video like of early, I think 1900s where like
it was kids
that smaller, like on the street corner.
They're like adults. They're like
with
Benjamin Button with their like top hats.
They indulged in their in the treats. So basically, Horace shares this cake with Jesse, and afterwards, Jesse, the 14-year-old, suggests, "Hey, let's take a trip down to the nearby harbor." And Horace was like, "Absolutely." So they stood up, held hands, and started toward the bay. Mm-hmm. A number of people saw the boys as they headed to the bay. So one woman near the bakery recalled that the older boy seemed a little bit too excited and had a little bit of an odd expression on his face. Another witness, who was near the marshy area south of the city, so basically they're walking to the bay, there's marsh and all that kind of stuff, and they are walking through there. That witness recalled seeing the two boys walking by and felt that the older boy seemed responsible. But it was weird that there were kids in that area because there typically weren't kids that were in the marshy area, especially without an adult. But he said that the kid looked kind of responsible. So he was like, I don't really see any issue there. So he didn't think anything about it. So as they walked through the area of the marshland that's known as the cow pasture, Jesse and Horace passed a boy that was a little older than Jesse who had been digging for clams. The boy remembered thinking Horace was far too overdressed to be wandering around in the mud because it's a super muddy, wet area. So as they disappeared into the marsh, another man recalled seeing the boys walking and noticed the older boy kept looking over his shoulder, but he didn't really think much about it because nobody was following him.
Oh, yeah, but he's looking to see if anybody is there.
The older boy was looking over his shoulder a lot.
Then the older boy's Jesse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the boys reach a swale. I don't know what that is, but I think it's like a dip in the marshy area. And Jesse told Horace that this would be a good time for them to rest, so they sat down.
Rest? Why are you resting in marshes?
Don't know.
Like, where are they supposed to be going?
Don't know. So at that moment, and it's all
poor
very
Horace.
quick.
I'm sorry I made fun of your name. I think something bad's happening
Horace. To you. Jesse immediately pulls out a pocket knife, grabbed Horace, and slashes his throat. When Jesse realizes that his initial attack did not kill Horace, he became so angry that he went absolutely crazy, repeatedly stabbing the little boy over and over again. Horace, who must have been absolutely terrified, actually fought back. This little 4-year-old.
Oh my God,
back.
Horace.
The reason that they know this is that there were really clear defensive wounds on his hands and his lower arms, as well as the deep gouges that he made in the sand with his flailing legs.
I don't like that.
And he also had clenched his fists so hard that his fingernails were embedded in his palms.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Horace eventually died from his wounds. But
Damn, for a
Jesse-
4-year-old to protect himself that much.
Yeah.
Good for him, Horace.
So Horace eventually died from his wounds, but Jesse continued on hacking at his body, puncturing Horace's right eye while attempting to also castrate the boy. So it wasn't until 4 p.m. that day that two brothers, George and James Power, stumbled upon Horace's mutilated body. So this is the story of Jesse Pomeroy, a 14-year-old who in 1874 became the youngest person ever convicted of first-degree murder in Massachusetts. So James, who's also known as the Boston Boy Fiend, killed 2 children and spent years prior to the killings brutally beating and disfiguring others.
That's awful. I feel like you just said James. Jesse.
I may have said James.
Fuck you, Jesse.
Jesse Pomeroy. A couple of some history on James. So James was born in Charlestown, Massachusetts on November 29th, 1859. It's actually said that he did not fit in, like at all, anywhere. Like he was just not somebody who fit in general. And
Yeah,
it's
he's a
actually
murderer.
because
He shouldn't fit in.
But it's actually because he had a pretty bad birth defect in his right eye, which actually his eye was kind of white-ish. It was like a marble colored eye. He had a thick white
with
film.
your title.
I know. A thick white film that covered his pupil and everything.
Well, and back then, any kind of disformity was
people were
frowned
super,
upon.
Yeah. So people were revolted by him, and the number one person who was really revolted by him was his fucking dad. So
Well, that's great.
yeah.
Thanks, Pops.
Jesse, like your Eric, was viciously bullied by kids that were bigger, taller, and stronger than him. And so, in turn, he too would bully those that were smaller, shorter, and weaker than him.
Can we just say
too.
bullying is like
Yeah.
a really
Stop
awful fucking thing.
bullying people.
So much trauma comes from bullying.
Yeah, I was called a faggot a lot in high school, but a lot
I
of
was
times
bullied
it was
a lot
like,
too.
"Are you gay? Are you gay?" You know, whatever. And I only had one like pretty severe incident, and it was this kid his name was Toby, and it was in the locker room. I ran cross country, and we always ended up in the locker room with the football players, and everyone showered typically. I didn't always,
Which is weird because nobody showered really in our high
I mean,
school.
it was kind of a thing in gym class too. Like, and I wasn't really bothered by having to shower with everybody. I wasn't like I think people have misconceptions.
People have
about,
an
like,
idea that a gay person's just going to be gawking.
like
and it's
gawking and
no,
like
I want to
everyone's
get in. I
dick.
want to get the fuck
Yeah,
out. I don't want to be around
awkward.
this.
I would like to get out.
Yeah.
I was sitting, tying my shoes or untying I was doing something, and this group of football players came over to me, and they started calling me a faggot. And this kid Toby shoved his dick in my face and told me to suck his cock or whatever. And it was horrible.
It's fucked up.
And fortunately,
You should have just punched him right in the
dudes-
dick.
I should have. Some of the cross country guys though, it kind of got him off me, and I kind of ran out, and it was a horrible thing.
Well, yeah, that's so traumatizing.
Yeah, but that was kind of the only thing that happened to me too much, because I started to become pretty, I don't know, bitchy and direct. And by my senior year, I was like, "Yeah, I'm fucking gay," and people were like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So it was a little bit different, but stop bullying people.
Yeah.
It's like the word.
And like online bullying just makes it even worse because then it's just a
people
bunch
are
of
real
random
safe
fucking
behind
people.
their computer.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten some weird ass comments on our shit too, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So yeah, severe bullying in general that caused him to also be a pretty vicious bully to some people as well, especially those that were shorter, weaker, and smaller than he was. So Jesse was a loner, and he preferred to read something that were called dime novels. They were like cheap dime novels. Which were stories that were full of blood, gore, sex wars, battles, and mayhem. Basically, like gaming at this point, but it was all story.
Yeah.
Then Jesse was a loner in his family too. He was ignored by his older brother, and his dad, whose name was Thomas, actually would frequently beat him with a horsewhip and leather belt, and would actually demand that Jesse strip naked so that his dad could inflict more pain direct on.
Well, yeah, no
skin.
wonder why he would like torture people. Like that's so fucked up. Don't abuse your children that bad either.
No. And I think, okay, so here's a common I think, thread with serial killers. And it's that at a young age, Jesse would start to torture and kill small animals, which his mother, by the way, her name was Ruth Ann, was aware of.
And fuck both of these parents.
I know. And Ruth Ann sticks out in my mind because I've talked about my adopted family before, the Mormon family down the street. The mom's name was Ruth Ann. And so I was like, oh. Apparently, the only person that was actually good to Jesse was his mom, Ruth Ann Pomeroy. So she thought that his issues were due to his bullying, and that if people would just stop bullying him, that he would actually stop bullying others. Which I don't know that that's not wrong, but he was also killing.
Well, he was also doing
torturing
more
small
at that
animals.
point. That doesn't matter.
Yeah. So so even with that though, his mom, even though he started torturing and killing small animals, his mom would still dismiss it, saying that it was a sign of sadness.
This was also the 1800s. They didn't know shit about shit.
But if you're a parent these days and your child is torturing and murdering animals, figure it the fuck out.
Right? Like there's
Something's not
something
right.
wrong. We're looking directly at the camera. If your child is killing animals, there's a problem.
There's an issue.
And it might be you.
Stop whipping your children with belts. Okay. So in 1871, in the city of Chelsea, which was just across the river from Charlestown, children began to suffer vicious beatings at the hands of a boy that some described as bigger, taller, and stronger than they were. And then some were also sexually assaulted. So this is kind of before. So
This is like the preemptive. He started by just beating and
so
sexually
this was
assaulting.
when Jesse, I think, was 11 or 12. So not too long before, because he was 14 when he. Yeah. They said that the boy would basically befriend them, offer them money and treats, and then he would take them to a remote location where he'd have his way with them. So the boy actually became known because I couldn't figure out who it was, and it was several kids.
Yeah,
all boys. But the boy became known as the boy torturer and the Red Devil.
Oh,
which is creepy.
The Red Devil.
The Red Devil. So,
was there a specific type of child? Like, what did he go after? Boys, girls? Was it
just boys?
All over?
Just boys that were smaller than him, smaller, shorter, that kind of thing. So, anyway, a description of this boy of Jesse was published in the Boston Globe, which Ruth Ann, his mom, read and recognized. So then she immediately moved the family to South Boston because of that.
So instead of like doing anything like significant about it, she's like, "Oh, we'll just move. It'll be fine."
Fuck you, Ruth Ann.
Doesn't mean shit. He's already killing animals. He's abusing people. Like there's something wrong.
There's already an issue.
There is something wrong.
In August of 1872, a young boy was found tortured on the sands of South Boston. And that following September, another child was found beaten, assaulted, and tied up to a telephone post. So the shitty thing
that's
is,
like out in public.
I know. The shitty thing is that he would, and I didn't put any of this in here because there's a lot of victims, but he would basically take like a board and like fucking beat the shit out of their face. So he'd knock teeth out. I mean, it was fucking brutal.
He had some anger issues.
So anyway, that victim that was tied up to the telephone post gave such a good description of his assailant that...
Oh, he didn't die?
No, none of those kids died.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were already getting to...
Hell no. We jumped back. These are all the kids that were being like tortured and and all that before Horace. That the telephone post, that kid gave such a good description of the assailant that he was able to identify the very peculiar right eye, a white eye that resembled marble.
Well, there you go.
Jesse. So Jesse Pomeroy was then arrested and sentenced to the State Reform School at Westboro. So Ruth Ann, however, was able to get him out only a few months later.
Yeah. So when I talked about those parents that just like
don't
bring their kids to the police, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
You should be put in jail the same amount of time.
I know. Here's what's shitty. And where they were now in Charlestown, she kept the fact that he got out of this reform school very quiet.
Of course.
Locals actually didn't even think he was out and thought he was locked away. It was in the paper. Everybody knew who this fucker was.
Oh my God. So he was out.
Yeah. And people didn't know.
Nobody.
No. So
that's
here's
even
what's
more
interesting.
fucked up.
And remember, this is prior to Horace. March 18th, 1874, a girl named Katie Curran disappeared from her home in South Boston. She had left to buy a notebook, but was never seen again. So after some investigation, it was discovered that the last place she had been was at the Pomeroy's shop because they owned a shop. in South Boston. Basically, the investigation led them to the Pomeroy's shop where Jesse actually worked. But they did an investigation, searched the store, and they didn't find anything. So there was some other shit about people who said that it was somebody else and whatever. So it kind of fell off the radar, but she was missing. Now let's jump back up to April 23rd, 1874. So Horace was discovered on the beach.
And was Horace the first?
Horace Millen.
Killed.
Yeah. So he was the first. After all those tortures and all that shit, he went to that reform school, came back. Yeah. Horace was killed.
I wonder what made him switch to be like, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to kill someone now.
I don't know. So anyway, Horace Millen was his name, was discovered on that beach. After the coroner cleaned the body, he found dozens of defense wounds, as I said earlier. He found 18 stab wounds to the torso, a punctured eyeball, and mutilated genitals. So the examiner noted that it was the work of a madman.
Yes.
So police issued a report to several journalists who were waiting at the mortuary. They also issued a bulletin to all stations to get help identifying the victim. So even though Horace had gone out and all this kind of stuff, it was 1874. I mean, there was no, right? 1874. Yeah. It just isn't what today is.
Yeah.
So his mom actually had reported him missing, and they were like looking and whatever throughout the day. But, yeah. Anyway, so because of that, it wasn't that long before the South Boston precinct wired back for more details. Horace's mother had already reported him missing, and by 9 p.m. of that same day, in 1874, a police officer was sent to the Millen home to deliver the news of her dead son.
That's very quick.
It is.
Like, especially in like a marsh. Like, I couldn't imagine it's a popular place that people would walk around.
The reason that he was found was because there were 2 boys that were looking for clams in the area. But when they were looking out there, the tide was, they misjudged the timing of the tide. So they were just kind of fucking around. So they actually happened upon his body, like not that long after. Like literally at 4 o'clock, I think. And they say he died between 11 and 3.
Jeez.
Yeah. So though these 2 boys actually found him pretty quick.
I couldn't imagine.
I put their names in here.
Stumbling upon a dead body.
Yeah.
So I don't really ever want to have that happen.
No. So anyway, there was only one logical suspect, but Jesse was supposed to be locked away at Westboro Reformatory. So the police didn't initially. They were like, well, he's not here. Anyway, it wasn't until the Boston chief of detectives reported that Jesse Pomeroy had actually been released on parole from there. And so immediately Jesse was picked up once they found their new house. So Jesse didn't immediately admit to any crimes. And in fact, when faced with 6 police officers all firing questions at him, he denied involvement, spinning stories of where he had been during the day. Horace went missing. But he had a large gap of time where he could not offer an alibi from 11 to 3. Literally when this little boy,
It's because he was murdering.
Yeah. So when the officers inspected Jesse, they found marsh grass and mud stuck to his shoes, scratches on his face, and a blood stain on his shirt. He also admitted to owning a knife, which was collected from his mother's house, and that knife had mud and what appeared to be dried blood on it.
And this is all before they could do any testing of the soil to see if it's the same.
And in fact,
mud in the blood, and they can't do.
Yes, but they did ask him, like, how is there not more blood on the knife? And he was like, I stabbed it into the ground. So they also got, and I found this to be interesting, there were trails of shoe marks in the mud. So they took a plaster of his shoe and a plaster cast of the shoe prints in the mud and compared it, and they matched it. So Jesse continued to deny that, even with presented with that, until they were like, we're going to take you to his body. And so when they did that, he broke down and admitted to killing Horace then. So he's quoted as saying, I'm sorry I did it. Please don't tell my mother.
How would your mother not find out about that?
I know. So Jesse...
It's such a weird fucking thing. Don't tell mama.
Don't tell my mommy. So then Jesse became the primary suspect in the disappearance of Katie Curran, obviously.
Well, duh.
So a little more than a month after Jesse's arrest, when the Pomeroy's store had to be shut down because obviously people were not shopping at their store anymore, knowing what he did, their former co-tenant decided to expand their business, which meant that they had to take over the basement of the former shop that had to be refurbished. So it wasn't too long before a group of workers discovered a body, which was the decaying remains of Katie Curran. So let's jump back to March 18th. I
forgot about her.
1874. I know.
I totally forgot about her. I'm sorry, Katie.
Who, the little girl Katie?
Yeah.
Oh, God. So jump back to March 18th, 1874. Just 6 weeks after he was paroled from that Westboro school, Katie Curran, who was 10 years old, was dressed in a black and green plaid dress and wore an overcoat and scarf, and ventured to the Pomeroy store in search of a notebook that she needed for school.
Oh.
So Jesse told Katie that there was a notebook, but the one notebook that they had like a stain on it, but that they had more because the store extended into their basement. And so she went into the basement, and as they began to go down the stairs, she noticed that there was actually not a store down there, but it was too late. Jesse immediately threw his arms around her neck and over her mouth, and with his knife slit her throat right then, which that killed her. So he then dragged her behind a water closet where they concluded he completely severed her head, cut her clothes open, and then attacked her torso and genitals. And I read a quote that said
And what?
And he attacked her torso and genitals. And it was so bad that was actually when her body was decomposing, she decomposed so much from the torso first that they couldn't really identify how many.
Oh my gosh.
She had, but it was such a messy,
How did nobody find that?
I don't know.
How did nobody smell that? How did nobody? Know. Unless they did, and they were like,
it was only
it
was a month later. I mean, that's
but the body would have had to start smelling. There would have been blood everywhere. Like, what?
I know. Once he did all that, he covered her body with ashes and stones, washed his hands, and went back to the store. There is something that said that when they found her body, that they're not sure that he totally cut off her head, or if when they were digging
like
around, the shovel maybe cut off her head. But they weren't.
Either is awful. I don't want my head to cap.
So ultimately, he did all of this torturing of all these kids, and then he killed both Horace and Katie during that time. So anyway, Jesse was in custody when Katie's body was found. And because of that, both his mom, Ruth, and Charles, his brother, were both taken into custody and charged with accessory to murder.
Good.
At first, he kept denying Katie. He's like, no, I didn't, I don't know anything about that, whatever. But once he was presented with the fact that his mother and brother were arrested, he confessed. And when asked why he said it, he said, I don't know. I wanted to see how she would act.
So he killed her before Horace.
Yeah, he did. So Jesse was eventually found guilty of the murder of both Horace Millen and Katie Curran, and was sentenced to death.
Good.
Which there was a whole
14-year-old going to death.
I know there was a whole thing about like him being a minor and the death penalty, because that was when they hung.
Ooh, yeah.
It was hanging, death by hanging. There was a lot of like shit about like, well, maybe he's insane, maybe whatever, to try to not get him to be convicted and sentenced to death. But anyway, he was sentenced to death. He was found guilty of the murder of both Horace Millen and Katie Curran and was sentenced to death. So his sentence was actually commuted, though, to life in prison to be spent in solitary confinement. So September 7th, 1876. This is how quick that went.
That is very quick.
He was locked up. Huh?
That's like unheard of quick, at least for these days.
He killed them in 1874, and he was found pretty quickly. So actually, it was a few years.
Yeah, but now it's like people are on.
I mean, trials can take forever. Yeah. Like
no, I know, but they're on. But they don't get. I can't even think of what.
I don't know what you're saying. Yeah.
Just keep going.
Anyway, September 7th, 1876, he was locked up in the Massachusetts State Prison in Charlestown, and died in prison. So, but spent most of his time in solitary confinement. There are a couple of documentaries about this, and I think that they have a version of this on a TV show that's actually out right now that Dakota Fanning's in. I can't remember the name of it.
Really?
Yeah. So there's some pictures that I found with this guy that had a milky eye, and I was like, is that him? And I think it is. But anyway.
Creepy.
Yeah, and he was creepy. He looked creepy as fuck. He looked like Albert Fish.
Ugh.
In his older years.
Oh, I mean, we're gonna put him in the graphics.
He'll be in the graphics,
so you'll see it.
But it was fucked up. So yeah, that was
that was a fucked up one.
I know, the story of Jesse Pomeroy.
Milk-eyed marble.
Yeah.
What is
Fuck this milky marble eyeball shitbag child.
Yeah, fuck that child. Fuck both children.
Right? Killer children.
Except Eric, don't kill us.
I know. Also, there was a lot of killer children. So
There were quite a bit.
yeah, we'll be recycling this topic.
Well, eventually I want to do one where it's children who've killed their parents. Because I think that's so fucking creepy.
terrifying.
You bring this
That's like
child into
the-
your life,
the-
into the life, and they just come and kill you.
That's
It's
like
terrifying.
the Melendez brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you know who that is, right? The
Yes, but
I think they're twins.
I'm
brothers
so
that
bad at
killed their
remembering
parents.
things that
Yeah,
I
it's
know
fucked
what you're
up.
talking about, but
Anyway.
I don't.
All right, that's it. That was
Episode 10. Sorry,
episode
that
10.
was a few weeks late.
Yeah, sorry. Hopefully you missed
welcome.
us enough that you're going to keep listening.
And
but-
hopefully you actually listen.
I know. But remember, please subscribe, follow, rate, and review. You can find us at Homocide Podcast or Homocide the Podcast.
Homocidepodcast.com.
Yeah. Homocide. No, I mean our social handles.
Homocide the
Yeah.
podcast.
So
on most socials.
Homocide, HOMO, homocidepodcast.com is our website. Definitely go there because we have some swag and all that fun shit. But then also follow us on social at Homocide the Podcast. But definitely be sure to subscribe on YouTube. If you like to watch it on video, and then please follow us on wherever you listen to your podcast. But please do go rate and review; those do help
And tell your friends.
people grow. Yeah,
Tell your friends how amazing Homocide.
yeah, yes, please. But anyway, also send in your Homotown murders. Oh my
Yes.
god, murder at homocidepodcast.com. And remember, you will likely get to join us if you want on the podcast to share your own Homotown murder, which is really exciting. So, anyway.
Yeah.
That's that. Next, hopefully, our producer Anna will be back on next week because
She should be.
super fun to do it. Her and I will be in New York. So yeah, thanks for going on this journey with us.
Yay.
We appreciate you. Goodbye.
Bye.